What's that book you're reading? Sarah jumped. She'd been so into her book that she'd forgotten where she was. That was the one good thing about sitting at the outcast table in the middle school cafeteria. You could get a lot of reading done. None of the kids sitting at the table wanted to talk to each other. That way you didn't have to acknowledge you were one of them. Kids who were too small or too big or too smart or not smart enough. Or like Sarah, started 7th grade way into fall, didn't know anybody. The girl who was asking about her book, she was even newer than Sarah was. She just started coming to Sarah's geometry class the week before. She was staring at Sarah's book. She was from New York or somewhere like that. She had these really cool acid green pointy frame glasses and these intense dark eyes. Archangel of the Apocalypse. What is that, like a spy novel? No. It's about the rapture. Like, when the faithful are taken up and the left behind have to deal with the pestilences. The rapture? Yeah, Revelations 13:1. What? It occurred to Sarah that maybe this was a chance to witness for the Lord, like Pastor Evans always talked about. Do you know Jesus Christ as your personal Savior? Well, not likely. The girl plonked down into the chair across from her. Duh, I'm Jewish. Sarah had never talked to anybody she'd known was Jewish before. What's that on the cover? It's the blasphemer. It has 10 heads and 7 horns, and it wears the crown of blasphemy. Yeah, it's what they're trying to get away from in this book. Whoa. Oh, the bell. Well, listen, I'm going into study hall next, and I just finished my book, and I need something to read. So do you want to swap? I'll lend you mine. It's the 5th one in the series. I think it's the best. Have you read it? Sarah could not believe it. The book the girl had pulled out of her backpack was the very one Pastor Evans had preached against 2 Sundays before. It was this whole series about kids who went to school to learn to be witches and worship the devil. Sarah fingered her bracelet, WWJD. What would Jesus do? This book was forbidden. But if she took it, then the girl would take hers. And maybe she'd be led closer to salvation. What would Jesus do? Hello in there! Okay, sure, great. Girl plunked the book down, took hers. We'll swap back tomorrow, okay? By the way, I'm Rachel. I'm Sarah. Okay. See you tomorrow, Sarah. She was gone. All the rest of the day, Sarah felt like she had a live snake in her backpack. She got home, she went right up to her room, took the book out, slid it to the back of her desk before she went down and started supper for her and her dad. Sarah's mom had died in September, and even though it was almost Thanksgiving, they were still working their way through the casseroles brought over by the ladies of the church. Sarah hated those casseroles. All that long, horrible summer when her mom had got sicker and sicker, and the ladies had come over and they'd sat with her and they brought food and they prayed with her and they tried to help, but nobody could help. Not really, not even Sarah's mother. She'd homeschooled her all her life, and after she died, her dad said, Sarah, you're going to have to be very brave. Start at the public school until we can figure something else out. Sarah hated it. Her clothes were all wrong, her hair, and none of the kids would talk to her. But now here was Rachel, and maybe there was a chance to make a difference. After supper, she went up to her room and slid the book out on the top of her desk. What would Jesus do? Sarah decided that Jesus would skim the book. Because skimming isn't really reading, but she could get enough that she could have a conversation with Rachel the next day and maybe take things a little bit further. So she opened the book and started to. The next day, Sarah couldn't wait till lunch. She plunked her tray down across from Rachel. "Hey, I read your book." "Yeah," Rachel said, "I read yours." "Okay, like this kid, he's not a witch." "I never said he was," said Rachel. "I know, that's what I'm telling you. He's not. And they don't worship the devil. It's just like magic and stuff." "I never said they worship the devil," said Rachel. "I know, that's what I'm telling you," Sarah said. "They don't." So listen, I stayed up all night. I finished it. It was really great. So here, I brought the next one of mine. It's called Den of Serpents. It is really good. So I'm wondering, could I read the rest of yours? I mean, but I'd like to start in order. So could I start with the first one? Okay, Rachel said. Your book was really wild. I mean, do you really believe that stuff? Well, Sarah was unwrapping her cheeseburger. I mean, it's not the Bible, so it's not actually true, but it's based on the Bible, so it's good to know, So anyway, so I can borrow your book? Well, I don't have the first one with me, said Rachel, but if you wanted to come home after school, I could lend it to you. Wow, Sarah thought. God was definitely using her as a witness. Now, Sarah did not know what to expect when she got to Rachel's house. But what she did never expect is that she would feel so much at home. It smelled like lemons and carnations, lots of light, books everywhere, magazines. Okay, Rachel said, books are up in my room. Hey, Ernie, we're home. This is my grandmother. Come on, she'll want to meet you. They went upstairs, and Rachel took Sarah into this room with big old heavy furniture, and there was an old woman sitting in a big armchair looking out the window. Noni, this is Sarah. Rachel pushed her forward. She can't see. She's going to want to feel your face. Sarah, this woman turned around in the chair. Her face was like paper that had been bunched up and smoothed out 1,000,000 times. It was like 1,000,000 wrinkles. Her eyes were this milky blue. She lifted her hand and touched Sarah's cheek. Oh, so beautiful, so young. I'm glad our Rachel is making friends. Okay, Noni, we're going to be in my room. Come on, Sarah. Come back and talk to me, Noni said. She took Sarah's hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. After that, Sarah went over to Rachel's pretty much every day after school. And they'd kind of do their homework, mostly talk, look at books. Sarah brought up Jesus a couple of times, but Rachel just said, I am just not into that, so just drop it. And after a while, Sarah just did. Sometimes Rachel would get on her computer, and then Sarah would go down the hall and talk to her grandmother. Amazing stories. She told her all about how she had come over from Poland as a girl with her family, had to leave most of her family and all of her friends. And Sarah told her about her mom dying. Such a relief to finally talk to somebody about it. And one day, Sarah was in there and she'd had to get a Kleenex off Noni's dresser, and there was a photograph in a silver frame, this old-fashioned one with a man with his boy, really, hair slicked back and these intense dark eyes, just like Rachel's. Who's this, Noni? Sarah said. In the frame, this man with he's really cute. Oh, Samuel, my oldest brother. Oh, so handsome. So kind. At the dances, he would always ask the plainest girls to dance. Mina, he'd say to me, the joy in their faces that I can bring them such joy. Oh, is he still alive? He did not leave Poland when we left before the Germans came. No, Samuel. He had a sweetheart. He was young. He'd be fine. He'd come find us. We never knew what happened. Papa tried to find out after the war, but so much was lost. Sarah didn't know what to say. Her stomach felt hollow. Should she offer to pray? But who would they be praying to? Hey, Sarah, come here. I want to show you something. It was Rachel. Sarah backed out of the room. Come on, Sarah, look, you're not going to believe this. She came into Rachel's room. She had her computer going. Look, it's that stuff. It's that stuff you read about. It's this, look, it said, look what it says. Welcome to the ride to the rapture. See, look, it's like those 4 archangels, like I'm this way. Okay, now watch. Okay, see, now I'm going to be this archangel. Okay, now watch. See, now there's the blasphemer. All right, I have to get around the blasphemer, like through the den of serpents. Okay, now there's the Leviathan, remember? And then now look, I made it. And the whole screen went, welcome to the rapture. And these halos came down. Isn't this great? Turn it off. what? Sarah, it's just turn it off. And Sarah started stabbing us. What? Sarah, knock it off. What are you doing? Stop it. You're going to be sorry. When it happens, you are going to be sorry. Sorry about what? That you didn't listen to me? That you didn't listen to me? And it's going to happen? And you what do you mean? God wants me to witness to you. Is this about Jesus? Is this about that? Like, are you trying to convert me, Sarah? Is that what this is about? We do not know the day or the hour, but it will come. And I hate you. Rachel took Sarah's backpack and threw it at her. Get out. I never want to see you again. Sarah backed up, and then she started to cry. She ran down the hall. She could hear Rachel's grandmother calling, girls, what is... She ran all the way home. That night she couldn't sleep. She went to school the next day. She was just drained. She dreaded lunch. She got there as early as she could, sat at her place. She watched over her book, Rachel going down the line. Then Rachel picked up her tray, and she paused for a moment. Then she came right over, stood opposite Sarah. My grandmother told me that I have to apologize to you. She said that game made fun of what you believed, and even if we don't like what somebody believes, we shouldn't make fun of it because they take it seriously. So I'm sorry I showed you that game. But I just want you to know that the only reason I asked you to come home with me is because I felt sorry for you. With your weird clothes and because your mom died, I pitied you. And that is the only reason. And then she turned and she walked over to a table where there was mostly older girls. Rachel sat at the very end of the table and all the girls looked at her, and one of them said something, they all laughed. Rachel didn't say anything, she just started to eat. Her back was really straight. Sarah wanted to cry. She wanted to slap somebody. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. No, she wanted a monster to come out of the floor, erupt into the cafeteria, and everybody would scream and run, and then Jesus would come down on a cloud and just scoop Sarah up. And they would watch as all the people ran and screamed, and Rachel would look up and beg her to save her. And then Rachel's face turned into Samuel's, those same dark eyes, and then her grandmother. Sarah felt herself get up, walk across to where Rachel sat. Rachel wouldn't look at her. Sarah knelt down beside the table. Rachel, when I first started coming to your house, I did think I was supposed to witness to you. But then I just liked you, Rachel, and hanging out and your grandmother. And I'm just so scared, Rachel. I don't want to be left behind. She started to cry. All the older girls were looking at her. They started to laugh. Rachel turned, grabbed Sarah, shoved her down beside her on the bench, turned to the girls. Shut up. If you want to laugh at something, go look in the mirror. Here, Sarah, take these napkins. All right, just look. I'm sorry too. What I said back there, I like hanging out with you too, okay? Some of what you believe is pretty wild, okay? But, at least you believe in something. And we can talk and, you know what, Sarah, after you left, Noni told me some stories from the Torah, and it's about, God and the Israelites being in the wilderness for days and days, and And God stayed with them like as a cloud by day and fire by night. I know that story, Sarah said. It's from the Old Testament. Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I think, like, if there is a God, I think God stays with people, like that's the point. So I don't think anybody's going to leave you behind, Sarah. I never would. Really? Yeah. You really mean it? Sarah, what do you have a Bible in your backpack? I can swear on the Bible if you want. I don't have a Bible. We could use my geometry book. Sarah, Rachel said, you just made a joke about the Bible. She grabbed her wrist. What would Jesus do? I don't know. Laugh. And then Rachel started to laugh. And so did Sarah. And then Rachel snorted. And that made Sarah laugh even more. And then Sarah snorted. And then they're both howling with laughter. And the older girls are just looking at them like they're out of their minds. They didn't care. They're just leaning against each other on the bench, just pushing each other back and forth with their heads thrown back, just laughing and laughing and laughing, caught up in their own kind of rapture for all the world to see.